Have you ever felt like your life has turned into a bunch of boring routines that make you wonder if it's too late to find joy and meaning again? It's possible to change even when it seems like time is against you. In this movie, we'll look at the story of Paolo, a man who had given up on a life of solitude. Discover the small but profound changes that rekindled Paolo's passion for life, changed his way of thinking, and inspired a whole community to accept renewal through his story. Small habits can lead to big changes. Why connection is so important, how to get past limiting ideas and start living a better life. Mindfulness and taking care of yourself at any age. Real-life lessons on how to leave a lasting impression. Beyond yourself, stay with us until the end because Paolo's journey isn't just a story. It's a guide to changing your own life. Whether you're looking for clarity, inspiration, or just a reason to believe in new beginnings, this video will leave you with useful information and hope for what's possible. If you haven't already, please click the subscribe button and set your alarm. Call to stay up to date on all of our new material. I'm excited to hear what you think about today's topic. If you like what you've seen, please leave a comment. If not, please leave a 0. Your feedback is very important to me because it helps me make better videos that are more relevant to your interests. Allow us to begin. Though Paolo had been widowed for more than 10 years, his life had become a series of predictable days marked by the quiet hum of loneliness and an unspoken acceptance of the passing of time. He had sunk into a cocoon of routine where every day began with a steaming cup of strong coffee and a slice of buttered bread and ended with him slouched in front of the flickering glow of his TV. The aches that ran through his body, the constant fatigue that dulled his spirit, and the lingering feeling of emptiness seemed like the inevitable cost of getting older. He thought that life had nothing more to offer, but life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. One quiet afternoon, Paolo was walking through the park with his usual heavy steps when he ran into Clara. She was running, and her every move was filled with a grace that seemed to defy the weight of the world. Her smile was like a burst of sunlight, and her laughter brought him warmth he hadn't felt in years. When they met, Paolo felt something stir inside him, a faint spark and a heart that had been dimmed for a long time. Clara slowed down and stopped to talk. Have you ever noticed how her voice is as lively as her personality? How small habits can completely change how we feel? I truly believe it's never too late to start over, she said. Paolo's words struck a deep chord in his mind like a long-forgotten melody. For the first time in what seemed like forever, someone saw him not as the tired old man he thought he was, but as a soul that could change. He agreed to meet her for coffee. Over hot cups of tea, they talked about their lives. Clara listened carefully as Paolo described his days, which were full of sadness and boredom. He talked about his bad eating habits and lack of motivation. His voice was tinged with self-deprecation. While Clara smiled, she knew that all of that could change Paolo. She said, her eyes, as a person of faith, all you have to do is take the first step. A brief meeting set off a deep awakening. Paolo couldn't get Clara's words out of his mind. They made him believe in the power of small changes to make a big difference. He felt like she had given him the key to a door he didn't know existed, a door that led to hope, health, and a fresh start, but the thought of change seemed impossible. Mountain, he had been stuck in his ways for so many years, sure that time had taken away his best chance. Unity, still deep inside, a quiet voice told him to respect that spark no matter what. Paolo chose to start small because he remembered Clara's kind advice. Change starts with what you eat. The next morning, He swapped his favorite white bread and butter for a bowl of cereal topped with colorful fruits and crunchy nuts. His old breakfast called to him, but within a few days he could not deny the change. He started to feel lighter again, taking away the heavy feeling that had been bothering him for a long time. This small win gave him hope. Paolo agreed with another idea Clara had given him. Stretch in the morning. She said that waking up your body is just as important as feeding your mind. At first, the stretches felt awkward and pointless because his stiff muscles didn't want to cooperate, but soon they became a sacred ritual. Each stretch was a gift to his tired body, a quiet moment of care and connection. He looked forward to those early minutes, enjoying the sense of release and renewal they brought. As the days turned into weeks, Paolo's transformation gathered speed. What began as a reluctant attempt to follow Clara's advice turned into a trip of self-discovery. For the first time in years, he felt alive, with possibility, purpose, and the heady realization that life still held wonders. To explore Clara wasn't just an inspiration, she was a reminder that it's never too late to reignite the fire within, to rewrite a story you thought had finished. And Paolo, once resigned to a life of quiet despair, now faced each day with a heart open to change and a spirit ready to soar. What truly astonished Paolo was how Clara could turn the simplest acts into profound lessons on living one day as they shared a coffee. She urged him to walk more. How she said with conviction, "Have you ever thought about how something as simple as walking can transform not just your health, but your entire outlook on life?" Her words carried a weight that Paolo couldn't ignore. She invited him to join her for a walk in the park, and what began as a hesitant stroll soon blossomed into something much more, a gateway to rediscovering the joy of movement and the beauty of connection. As they walked, the conversation flowed effortlessly, touching on life choices and the resilience of the human spirit. Clara shared insights about how walking wasn't just exercise, it was a way to reconnect with the body and release endorphins, the so-called happiness hormones. Every step, she explained, is a small act of love for yourself, a signal to your body that you're choosing vitality over stagnation. For Paolo, who once regarded walking as a tedious job, this newfound perspective was transformative. Every step he took in the park woke him up. He started to notice the bright colors of the leaves, the soft touch of the wind on his face, and the beautiful music of birds singing and trees rustling. Clara was right there with him, encouraging him to take just one more step. Paolo found himself going further, not just through the park's winding paths, but also into a world of possibilities he had given up on for a long time. But the way to change wasn't easy. He had to overcome some problems. Paolo had big inner fights because of years of limiting beliefs and the constant fear that it was too late to change. One day, he told Clara about his fears. "I feel like it's too late for me," and her answer was both firm and kind. She told Paolo that it's never too late to grab his hand. It's only too late when you decide not to try anymore. As long as you have life and want to move forward, it's never too late. He kept hearing her words over and over in his mind, like a mantra that kept him going when he was having doubts. He was determined to repay her faith in him. Paolo started to make small but meaningful changes to his daily life. He realized that his mindset, not his age, was the real obstacle. The change wasn't sudden or dramatic, but with each small change, the benefits grew. Clara's suggestions, which had seemed impossible at first, turned into chances to rediscover joy. Each step and change felt less like a burden and more like a celebration of life. One of his biggest challenges was facing his using too many processed foods. Paolo had long put ease over health, eating canned soups, stuffed breads, and sweet cookies. He embarrassedly told Clara, "I thought these foods were safe." She carefully explained how these foods were draining his energy, causing inflammation in his body, and making the aches and fatigue he blamed on getting older worse, instead of making him feel better with big changes. Clara suggested a kinder method, gradual substitution. Together they learned how to make simple, healthy foods. Paolo learned how satisfying it is to make colorful salads with fresh vegetables, whole carbs, and bright vegetable slices. Clara showed him how to season grilled chicken with fragrant herbs and whip up natural juices bursting with the sweetness of fresh fruits. To his surprise, Paolo found a new passion in cooking. What once seemed like a chore became an act of self-care and creativity as his diet transformed. So did his approach to stress. Clara introduced the concept of mindful pauses, urging Paolo to carve out moments of stillness. In his day, stress can be as damaging as poor nutrition, she reminded him. At first, Paolo felt awkward, pausing his busy mind for a few minutes of deep breathing. But with time, those quiet moments became a sanctuary, easing his tension, clarifying his thoughts. A turning point in Paolo's journey happened when he finally went to the doctor after years of putting it off because he was afraid of finding problems he didn't want to face. Clara's gentle reminder that prevention is always better than cure gave him the courage to make an appointment, and the results were amazing. His doctor, who had been worried about his high blood pressure and chronic fatigue, was amazed at how much better he looked. Paolo's blood pressure had stabilized, his energy had returned, and the weight of his weariness had lifted. The medical validation invigorated Paolo for the first time in years. He felt the power of his own agency, the understanding that his choices were reshaping his body, his mind, and his life. Along with improved health came an unexpected and exhilarating sense of confidence. He no longer saw himself as a man limited by age, but as someone who still had the capacity to dream and achieve. Clara stayed his unwavering ally, inspiring him to aim even higher. Together they began planning small adventures. Paolo took weekend trips to nearby towns, hiked along scenic trails, and looked into places he had forgotten he wanted to see. Each journey was more than just a change of scenery. It was a celebration of his newfound love for life in Clara. Not only did Paolo make a friend, he also found a guiding light that reminded him that even small changes can lead to big changes. Because of these changes, Paolo realized that taking care of himself wasn't selfish. It was a way to honor his life with time. He saw that every small step he took wasn't just bettering his health, but also his outlook on life. He woke up every morning excited to face the day, which was something he thought he had lost forever. It's never too late to start over, and every small choice we make today can affect how we live tomorrow. Like Paolo, you and I can learn that taking care of and respecting our bodies and minds is the best gift we can give ourselves. Now it's your turn. What are you willing to change to live a healthier life? Drive and motivation. The first step might be easy, but it could take you places you never thought possible. Are you ready to start? Paolo's story didn't stop with his personal change. It turned into something much bigger as his health, relationships, and mental health got better. People around Paolo, including friends, family, and even strangers, started to ask him for advice. They were interested in how he had changed his life at an age when many people think it's too late to make changes. One day, his nephew, a young man who was having trouble staying motivated, asked Uncle Paolo for help. "How do you keep going? How do you keep your mood so good?" Paolo smiled and said, "The secret isn't to be perfect. The secret is to show up for yourself every single day, no matter how small the effort." Clara and his growing group of friends pushed him to do this. Paolo chose to hold regular meetings in the park where his journey began. These events brought people of all ages together to share stories, learn from each other, and make change for the better. What began as a few walks and chats turned into a community movement very quickly. People started bringing their own meals and workouts, making it a place where everyone felt inspired to make their lives better. Paolo's bravery in telling his story inspired others. One woman who joined the group out of interest told Paolo, "I've been feeling lost for years, but seeing you take these steps gives me hope that I can do it too," for Paolo. He became more and more sure that transformation wasn't just about personal growth, but also about starting a positive chain reaction. As Paolo's fame grew, he was asked to speak at community events, senior centers, and even local schools. His message was simple but powerful. No matter what age you are, the smallest changes can have big effects. The key is to believe you are worth the work. You can let me know you're still watching this video by leaving the first comment below. If you think these lessons are helpful, please do so. One of the most memorable invites he got was from a nearby university, which asked him to talk about his journey with psychology and wellness students. Paolo told a room full of excited people. We often think that getting older is a downhill journey, but it's only that way if you let it be. Every moment is a chance to redefine yourself in addition to these events. Pao started writing in a journal every day, recording his thoughts, struggles, and wins. Clara suggested that he compile these writings into a book, Your Story is Worth Sharing, with the world, she said, inspired by her support. Paolo began writing a memoir he hoped it would reach those who felt stuck, showing them that change is possible at any stage of life. As he reflected on his journey, Paolo realized how much he had gained, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. His relationships deepened, particularly with his children and grandchildren who admired his renewed zest for life. Paolo even inspired his son, who had been neglecting his own health, to join him on morning walks. One day, Paolo and Clara decided to take a leap and plan a trip. They had both dreamed of a hiking tour along a picturesque coastal trail. The trip symbolized more than just adventure. It was a celebration of life and the resilience they had cultivated together, standing on a cliff overlooking the ocean. Paolo turned to Clara and said, "I never thought I'd feel this alive again. Thank you for showing me it was possible." As Paolo continued to embrace life, he realized the true meaning of legacy. It wasn't about material possessions or wealth, it was about the values, lessons, and inspiration we leave behind. Paolo's story became a testament to the fact that change isn't bad by age, but by willingness and belief in oneself. Through his journey, Paolo found that the greatest gift wasn't just regaining his vitality, it was rediscovering the joy of living, connecting with others, and knowing that his actions could encourage a lot of people to take their first steps toward change. Now, just like Clara did, Paolo asks you, what will you do today to start your own transformation? Every step counts as long as it's in the right way. You have the power to change your life. Are you ready to take that first step? Paolo's journey of renewal turned into a lasting commitment to both his own growth and the empowerment of others. As the weeks turned into months and then years, the choices he made had an even bigger effect on the community of change than he could have imagined. Steps of Renewal started as a small park gathering that turned into a well-run community group. It became a place where people of all ages could meet, share their stories, and help each other on their journeys. Paolo and Clara, who co-led the group, came up with programs that focused on emotional health, mindfulness, nutrition, and physical exercise. People from neighboring towns started joining as word got out. Families brought their elderly parents, younger people were looking for advice and inspiration, and couples were looking for ways to improve their lives together. What began as a few walks in the park had grown into a movement that emphasized the power of community in personal growth. The book that made people's lives better. Paulo's autobiography, Never Too Late to Begin Again, came out a year after he started writing it. The book told the story of his change and gave useful advice. People from all walks of life connected with the memoir's simplicity and honesty, and it became a bestseller in its genre. Paulo was invited to speak at book fairs, wellness conventions, and even online forums where readers shared how his story had inspired them to make changes in their own lives. For Paulo, this wasn't about fame, it was about giving people hope and practical tools to reclaim their lives and live a life of purpose. At this point, Paulo had shown everyone what it means to age with purpose, and by vitality, he spent his mornings stretching, meditating, and going for walks. In the afternoons, he did community service, which could mean planning events in the park, mentoring others, or sharing meals with people who needed company. But the most rewarding thing about his new life might have been the close relationship he had formed with his family. His children, who used to worry about his declining health and energy, now admired his transformation, and his grandchildren, who used to see him as tired and distant, now looked up to him as a role model. One of his grandkids was moved by his story and wrote an essay for school called My Grandfather, My Hero. When Paulo read it, tears came to his eyes because he realized that his journey wasn't just about him. It was changing how his family and future generations saw aging, resilience, and the importance of self-care. Throughout it all, Clara remained his constant companion, and their relationship, which began with mutual respect and inspiration, grew into something deeper. One night, as they watched the sunset together, Paulo opened his heart again. Clara asked, "Do you realize how far you've come? You've become someone who inspires me every single day." Paulo smiled and replied, "That's because you showed me it was possible. You gave me the courage to believe in myself again." Their relationship became proof that love and life can thrive at any age if they are cared for, respected, and share dreams while facing challenges with strength. Paulo's journey had some rough spots. There were times when he had doubts, like when old habits tried to come back, or when his body hurt reminded him of how old he was, but he always remembered how important it was to keep going, the power of a supportive community and the value of self-compassion. He often shared this with others. It's not about never facing setbacks. It's about how you respond to them every step forward. No matter how small is progress, a legacy of hope. In his later years, Pau dedicated himself to creating resources for those who couldn't attend his gatherings or read his book. He collaborated with local organizations to create free wellness workshops, wrote articles for senior magazines, and even started a video series where he shared simple tips for living a vibrant life. One of his final projects was establishing a scholarship fund for young people studying nutrition and wellness. If I can help the next generation understand the importance of caring for themselves and others, then I've done my part. He said the final reflection. As Paulo grew older, he often reflected on his journey sitting by the window one evening, looking out at the park. Where it all began, he felt a deep sense of gratitude. He thought about the quiet, uninspired life he once led and how it had transformed into a story of purpose, connection, and joy. He realized that his greatest achievement wasn't in the changes he made, but in the lives he touched along the way. Every person who joined the community, read his book, or simply shared a conversation with him had become part of his legacy. In his final years, Paulo was deeply satisfied with his life because he knew he had lived it to the best. His message was clear. It's never too late to start over. If you take that first step, the best days of your life may still be ahead of you. Paulo's story became not only his own, but a reminder to everyone that every day is a chance to grow, connect, and live with meaning. What will your story be? Passing the torch. As Paulo's journey came to an end, he began to focus on making sure that the community and values he had built would live on. He saw that others could continue the mission of change and renewal. His park gatherings had turned into a movement that people from all walks of life joined, and he wanted to give them the tools they needed to take ownership. He began mentoring key members of the group, sharing his knowledge, experiences, and ideas. Clara was always by his side and played a key role in helping others find their voice. Together, they led workshops that taught people how to motivate and support each other. Paulo's message to the group was simple: be the change you want to see in the world, and others will follow. He stressed that the movement wasn't about him, but about the power of people who chose to live with purpose and share their growth with others as a gift to future generations. As Paulo thought about what he wanted to leave behind, he decided to write a book that would last. The book was called Steps of Renewal, a handbook for living with purpose at any age, and it was full of useful tips, inspiring stories from the community, and doable steps that could help people of all ages. Accept change. The second comment below lets me know that you are still watching this video with me. If you think these lessons are helpful, please let me know. The guidebook turned into a beacon of hope and a tool for change, which Paulo gave away for free in libraries, community centers, and online. His simple but deep goal was to reach people who were stuck in a rut, bored, or lost, and gently push them toward change. Paulo really thought that his guidebook was written with the idea that the right words at the right time could light a fire in even the most tired hearts. One of the most touching moments in this new part of Paulo's life came from a surprise source: his 10-year-old great-grandson, who was interested in the book. Asked if he could read it while sitting next to his great-grandfather. He turned the pages with wide-open eyes of amazement. When he was done, he looked up at his great-grandfather and said, "Grandpa, when I grow up, I want to be like you." At that moment, Paulo's heart swelled with such deep joy that it brought tears to his eyes. It was a powerful reminder that even small actions can pass down through generations, planting seeds of inspiration and hope. He closed the book. As Paulo got older, his body started to slow down, but his spirit was still as strong as ever. He had learned that the most important thing in life wasn't how many years you lived, but how many good times you had with family, friends, and Clara, who was always there for you. Paulo found a lot of happiness in the simple things in life, like sharing meals, having deep talks, and going for walks in the park, which had become his sanctuary. One night, he and Clara watched the sun go down, painting the sky orange and purple. Paulo thought about his trip. "Life isn't about how many breaths we take," he said, in a steady, warm voice. "It's about the moments that take our breath away, the ones we choose to truly embrace." "Clara, I wouldn't trade this trip for anything," she replied softly, her eyes shining with tears of love and pride. "We now know it's never too late to live a meaningful life. Thank you for giving us this great gift, to remember that we should live our lives to the fullest no matter where we are in our stories." When Paulo died, he left the world the way he had learned to live it, peacefully, surrounded by love and gratitude. His memorial wasn't a sad event. Instead, it was a joyful celebration of a life changed and the many lives he had touched along the way. Friends, family, and members of the community came together to honor a man whose journey had become a symbol of hope and resilience. Story after story was told, each one showing Paulo's quiet but profound impact, from his park walks and honest conversations to the guidebook that had become a lifeline for so many. Paulo's influence had a ripple effect that, went far beyond what he could have imagined. To speak, Clara, who had always been by his side, stood up. Her voice was steady, but her words carried the weight of a lifetime of love and respect. She looked around the crowd and said, "Paulo's legacy isn't just in the life he lived, but in the lives he changed. He taught us that every day is a chance to start over, and for that we will always be grateful. It's a legacy that lives on." After Paulo died, his vision continued to grow, and the community he had inspired became stronger. His roadmap. It reached people all over the world because it was translated into many languages. Clara and the leaders Paulo had taught continued his work to make sure his dream lived on in the park where they had met for the first time. Clara, a tree was planted in his honor and a sign was put up under its branches with words that summed up his journey. This was done in loving memory of Paulo, who showed us that every step forward, no matter how small, can change a life. May his journey continue. The tree became a place for the community to think and be inspired. Its roots became a living symbol of Paulo's lasting legacy. Strangers and loved ones would come to see it, some leaving flowers and others sitting quietly in the shade to get strength from the story of a man who had shown the world that it's never too late to start over. The journey begins with you. As Paulo's legacy lived on, it became a rallying cry for many people who read his story and found the courage to take their own first steps. His short life had shown an infinite truth that every moment has the potential for growth and that purpose and connection are always there, within reach, and that love, when nurtured, has the power to go beyond time. As you think about Paulo's journey, ask yourself what small step you can take today to start changing. Let his story be your call to accept change. You can find your mission again and live your life to the fullest. Having read Paulo's moving story, what struck you as most important? What is one thing you're ready to use in your own life? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear how Paulo's story has inspired you to take the next step. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel if you like this video. Together, we can keep looking at stories and lessons that show us it's never too late to start over. Glad you watched, and we hope to see you in our next film, Shining Star.